I have started recording. I'm just checking audio levels. You should say some things, just in case.
Some things.
Thank you.
I did the bit.
You did the bit. That's it. We can start.
Are you
Let's
proud
go.
of me,
It's time. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to week 2, totally not coming out in week 4, of Double Dip Draft. I am your host, Cabral. Joining me today is actually a new co-host.
My name is Kenneth with a K sound, coach of the Ne'er-Do-Well Nido Kings.
Yes, he's joining me today. Nick could not make it, but that is all right. We have some really interesting matches. I would say, honestly, like there's one match in particular that is really... that really catches my eye and is really interesting. But we got a few pretty good, pretty fun matches here for week 2 of the Double Dip Draft. We're going to be going over probably our first team here coming up. I guess I might as well introduce him, actually, because I don't know what other stuff we could chat about beforehand, because week 1 was a while ago now, and I don't remember the details of that. So let's go on to this first match of Schpood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers, versus Remedy of the Duroc Dugongs. Cody, of course, being a seasoned player, we saw him. I believe he won his first match, right?
Yeah, excuse me. I believe his first match was versus Black Captain, who obviously messes with his weird sand core of, Gigalith, because Black Captain, as you may be aware, brought 3 different types of weather. So
yeah, Black Captain's got a fun draft. Again, it's something where like the more I looked at it, the more fun I kind of liked about it, because he's got those 3 micro weather cores, and it works really well if done right.
I honestly, I'm over the moon about Black Captain's draft. I think it's so wacky, but being able to sort of pick and choose your advantage state, depending on the match that you're going into, is enormous. We have a very similar core going on with a team that we have later on this week, where a player drafted both Psychic and Electric Terrain. Yeah. So there's always that sort of question in the back of your mind where, what do I need to prepare for? And if I prepare for the wrong thing, am I just going to get demolished? And I think that's a really fun dynamic while you have to deal with while team building, because you have to make sure that you can handle both options and handle both options well.
Go ahead and go over the teams real quick. I got a phone call. 1 second.
All right, so
what they brought to this match.
On the side of Schpood, the Southtown Sandslashers, obviously there's the baby Sandcore with Gigalith, obviously running Sandstream with Landorus, his tier 1. Obviously, with drafts, you sort of have to make some concessions when it comes to some Pokemon, and the tiering council, we did end up deciding that Sand Force Landorus would be completely legal, but Sheer Force Landorus would just be too overwhelming for the vast majority of other drafts to handle it, depending on the sets that it would run. But we didn't want to sort of limit Pokemon options for people that were really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So, for example, in this draft, someone was able to draft both Landorus Therian, Scoots, and of course, Cody was able to draft Landorus Incarnate. But as you just right out the gate, Landorus has a very solid matchup on 5 of the Pokemon on Remedy's team. Obviously, he hits the first 3 super effective: Ninetales, Toxapex, Volcanion. None of them are going to appreciate an Earth Power, much less a Sandforce boosted Earth Power. Yeah. Cramorant is a decent answer to it, but it's still going to take probably 40% from a Psychic. Obviously, Beartick isn't your bulkiest bear in the bunch, and Guzzlord is a pretty okay answer to it if it's defensive, but most Guzzlord sets, and obviously we're going to see later, this thing is sort of not off bulky. So yeah, answers to Landorus looking really thin. Bulu, however, is handled very well by Remedy's draft. Volcanion answers it handily. Toxapex can knock it off. It can hit it with Gunk Shot, Poison Jab. It can Toxic it.
Yep,
really no issues there.
Any flying moves it can on it as well. Beartick does get Ice moves, but it's not going to outspeed that thing, so it's not really the best answer for it at that point.
Yeah, and then you can't really rely on something like Scarf Beartick, because without the ability to pivot, you sort of lose a lot of your allures with Scarf Pokemon.
Yeah, which is a shame, because Beartick does great. It gets Slush Rush and it also gets Swift Swim. It's not great, I'd say, but it's weirdly, it can fill a hole if there's one for it.
No, but you know what? I completely agree with you. I think Beartick's actually got a lot of love in the past couple of generations. Getting Swift Swim in Gen 5 was obviously not, it wasn't bad by any stretch, but trying to match up Beartick as a Swift Swimmer versus something like Kingdra or, and now in today's climate, Barraskewda, it's like you're just actively shooting yourself in the foot, trying to get it to work. But Flush Rush, much, much, much more agreeable in terms of team composition because Beartick is one of the only ice types that gets like any decent fighting coverage. Because Arctozolt gets low kick for stuff like T-Tar, which is really nice, but Beartick actually can pack superpower and it has Aqua Jet. So it does fill a particular niche in terms of usability in different kinds of weather.
Up instead of a Alolan Sandslash.
I do think Alolan Sandslash is the more superior mon for what it's worth.
Absolutely is, but
you do get completely melted by Vacuum Wave. That is true, but you do have Steel coverage, which sort of fills any of the same role. Anyway, the star of Spood's draft far and away is that Regidrago. There is exactly zero good options on Remedy's team for it, but I don't believe she even drafted a fairy type. So
no, there's no fairy types on Remedy's team whatsoever, and so basically you just come in with Drago, you scarf it, you do Dragon's Energy with Dragon Maw, and then you just go to town, and that's it.
Yeah, the only way that Remedy has a chance of sort of besting the Regidrago is trying to get out in front of it with something fast.
Yeah. That and just like chip damage too. If Remedy had something to just chip away at it, but it doesn't look like she really had too much for that sort of thing. Unless she toxic it and got a chance with Tox effects on it early on. But that's about all she could really do at this point, I think.
True. Plus, Toxic really is your only good answer, but then you always run the risk of that tentacle coming in for absolutely free.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that thing comes in, basically absorbs any toxic spikes you throw at, or any toxic or anything like that, and it sets not amazingly well on Remedy's team. Well, actually, you know what? Remedy does not have a lot of things to hit that. What am I talking about?
No, I think the star of Remedy's team would have to probably be the Volcanion or the Guzzlord.
Yeah.
Because Toxapex is really just going to come in and absorb hits, but it's not really going to be. It's not going to be responsible for too much of the chip damage that's responsible for the game, because as long as Spood's Tentacruel is alive, Toxic Spikes are a non-option. But meanwhile, Guzzlord can knock off just about 5 of the Pokemon. It can Heat Crash the other one.
Yeah.
So if Remedy finds a way to start abusing Guzzlord's absurd bulk, then maybe she can find some leverage in the game. But I think with that, we can go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get this started here. So, of course, we have Toxapex coming out first to, I think, at this point, probably scout and get up some spikes. Yeah, there we go. Of course, we do have Cody bring out Gigalith, which is a good start. Bringing up that sand, and, it takes a lot less damage down from that Scald because of it.
True, and I think Scald is actually the better play here. I think setting up Toxic Spikes may have been a waste, just simply because Tentacruel is still alive. But it does do wonders to scout with Knockoff, which I think may have been a Remedy's original plan in the first place, is force in the Tentacruel and remove its passive recovery, or any answers that it may have. Because that Rocky Helmet could cause problems for Guzzlord and Beartick later if the time came.
Yeah, unfortunate about the knock, because Rocky Helmet is actually a pretty nice thing to throw on Toxapex.
Yeah, same thing here. Toxic Spikes, in theory, are amazing against this draft, but as long as Tentacle's alive, it's sort of meager in terms of what it actually can do. Weakness Policy actually is a super interesting option, because if this thing were to come in and park the Weakness Policy on like a Scald, then he's in prime position to do some damage, which I'm a fan of.
You got Boots Cramorant here as well, by the way, just throwing out a Surf.
True. With the boots, you already know that it's probably not going to be offensive, because she wouldn't bring in Cramorant if it didn't have Defog. Gold Missile does get her a little bit of mileage here, because it does sort of weaken the Gigalith for potentially Guzzlord or Beartick later if it were to stay in. But questionable switch from Schpood. I don't know why. Defog and Surf had already been revealed at that point, so I think Lulu may have been a safer switch in. But obviously now with Landorus sort of in play, it's not really a huge deal, but Cramorant just completely lives the Grass Knot. And
yeah, it does. It's,
completely puts down Landorus.
If I remember,
so that said, it really does. And plus, with Landorus, maintaining Gigalith is not it's not as high a priority, because now there is no real abuser for it. So
yeah,
getting damage on Toxapex for Dragon Energy is definitely the play here, and I think that's sort of exactly the direction that Schpood decides to go with it. A bit of a stalemate here. Tentacruel versus Toxapex. It's always going to play out one way. Rapid Spin. Boost Volcanion, actually. I very much appreciate that option because now something here you get to. But he goes for the Defog.
Yeah, she does.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Beartic comes out. Not. I'm trying to think of Beartic does hit a few Pokemon, but it just doesn't have the speed without any weather to hit a lot of Cody's team. That's kind of the things. It's something where like I think Kramer and Beartic would have really benefited from Rain. Honestly, you could have thrown Rain Dance on Toxapex actually to get rid of Sandstorm too.
I very much like that play because then Beartic is in prime to sort of attack Bulu, Volcanion, or I'm sorry, attack Bulu, Regidrago, Landorus.
Yeah, it's a lot of Cody's Pokemon, and it's something too where I think a lot of people kind of sleep on, like throwing up weather, not by ability but by move as well. Because Toxapex can take a couple hits, throw up weather, and get rid of Sandstorm against Cody. That could have been really nice to deal with or to do. But that's
unfortunately, now with Cramorant gone, Remedy really has no good answers to deal with Gigalith, even if it is low, because you're going to see it completely eats this Fire Blast, and with the Sandstorm gone, any sort of grass cover that Ninetales has, if it's not running Energy Ball, you're looking at a 2-turn Solar Beam that's only going to do, I think, 12% maximum.
Yeah. Because
you'll see in just a second, this Gigalith just kind of
14%. Yeah. It just takes a
completely
hit,
eats up the Solar Beam.
Thing. And it just shows how Sandstorm really helps those rock and ground Pokemon get that extra bit of special defense. Because like Ninetales has some pretty good offense.
And you can see Guzzlord completely soaking the close combat and getting off the Heavy Slam. So you can see that the utility for Guzzlord was there. It's just, once your options to handle Regidrago, which we can confirm afterwards that it was Scarf.
Yeah.
You're sort of already up the creek, so to speak. It's really hard to come back from that once your answers to it are gone.
Yeah, it definitely is. But honestly, Remedy kept it close. Good match by both players.
No, she did. I do think that on Schpood's side, I don't think that he needed to necessarily lose Tapu Bulu. I think he could have probably played around the Guzzlord a little bit better with the Jolteon, because obviously because you can see that Guzzlord hits the Heavy Slam, I believe.
Yeah, right.
Or the Heat Crash. No, it's the Heavy Slam. So yeah, Jolteon could have easily came in. Now, if it was a knockoff, you're risking the damage there, but
yeah, I think
Remedy kept it really respectable.
Yeah, I think the reason Bulu came in, by the way, was to soak up that last Sandstorm turn. Because I don't think Cody wanted any chip on Regidrago. I think he was keeping it at 100% for the Dragon's energy completely. That
would make sense, actually. That does help, because anytime, I think it's like a 70% threshold where Dragon Energy becomes weaker than Draco Meteor. So if you can make them commit to Draco, then you're in a much better position in terms of survivability.
Yeah, definitely. But that's going to be that match there. We have another very interesting, very fun match coming up here. And I say that, and it's IDM versus the IDM of the Brussels Espions versus GTPWoody of the Schomburg Salamances.
So there is so much to sort of unpack here, not only given the sort of exalted status of IDM as a former champion, constant playoff contender, and generally rather nice guy, who is always sort of a tour de force in terms of his actual draft play. But as you can see, it looks like Woody did actually prepare for the right terrain. IDM obviously being the contender that I spoke of earlier, who could bring either Psychic or Electric Terrain. It looks like Woody did make the right choice bringing that Arena Trap Duck trio.
Yeah. And Flygon, of course, being your ground type as well to take any electric hits.
And then I think that Boltund is Strong Jaw, because I think Strong Jaw is its only move. I don't think it gets any sort of...
Yeah, I think Strong Jaw is its only ability at this point in time. It might have one other thing, but I know it's not anything related to like Volt Absorbing or anything like that.
So on paper, the Doug trio, if played correctly, can eliminate 3 of the Pokemon on IDM's side: the Koko, the Klefki, and the Alolan Raichu. And then Dragon Dance Flygon could get you a few good hits in to Gudra, but that Lucario would be your real only, like, would have been Woody's only real answer to both Buzzwole and Mudsdale, which you're going to see later. Definitely needed some extra attention.
Yeah, IDM, of course, he just got a really good team. That Mudsdale's terrifying with its stamina ability to boost its defense anytime it's hit. Throw an Assault Vest on the thing, second to special defense. There's no need to throw any stats into defense on Mudsdale, really. There can be, but, you know. With just some other just good counters, I think, as well.
Right. Yeah. I think that we can just go ahead and hop right into the match. I think that's really all that we need to know, because as you'll see, this match is it is rather fast.
Yeah, so Dexter comes out to start to scout what's going on, which isn't a bad idea, but Mudsdale, of course, is here to hit just about everything.
True. And that lead matchup is especially difficult, because if you don't lead something, because, like, obviously you have a, in theory, 50% chance to get a strong lead off with Dugtrio, but IDM, knowing that he could get any 3 of his ground weak Pokemon traps, is never going to lead an electric type. But Woody does make a really good call here, going directly into the Dugtrio.
Yeah. There's stamina going.
Unfortunately, this is sort of where it begins to snowball, because Mudsdale +1, that body press is going to completely shred the Copperajah.
Yeah. Copperajah goes down. There comes Flygon. Going to set up that Dragon Dance. Yep, there we are.
I do think the Dragon Dance was a little ambitious. I think, but I do think that because Woody went into Flygon here meant that Lucario was probably physical. And obviously, you weren't going to get any sort of mileage out of physical against a +1 Mudsdale.
Throw some iron defenses, and this, and then we have 2 kind of defensive walls here at this point. Throwing in an early power trip, though, I think.
I don't think that I agree with that play. Iron Defense Corviknight could go one of 2 ways. It could be the Power Trip set, which obviously now it's been revealed that it is, or it could be Iron Defense Body Press, which could in theory outmuscle Mudsdale with enough boost, because I think +6 Body Press is going to do like well over 70% to anything, much less Mudsdale.
Yeah. How much? So if I remember correctly, Power Trip is basically stored power, right? But for like what?
Yeah,
dark?
Stored power, but it's physical dark.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at +6 boosts, it's 20 per boost. So +4 agility, +6, you're looking at 10 times 20. So you're looking at a base 200 base power.
Yeah.
Power trip move, but it's just sort of a I don't even want to say uphill battle. But I also don't want to go off so far as say it was kind of a lost cause. But there is no good answer left. Like, once that Lucario is dead, which it did reveal Vacuum Wave, so it could very well have been a special set, but if it was special, we didn't really end up seeing it too much. Right. Business as usual for IDM, really, if we're being honest. He is he is insane.
He is a literal machine. I think he has a calculator soldered into his brain, actually.
I could see that, little cords coming out of his ears.
Oh yeah, they like flow in the wind too as he runs around.
Absolutely, very majestic.
Yeah, exactly. Like like those bicycles with tassels. That's like IDM's ears. Little tassels coming out of his ears.
Every time he runs, he has tassel cords coming out of his ears.
Yeah, exactly.
He's riding down the street. I was like, I think I'm gonna bring Electrain this time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's this word, like, as he moves, like, literally, he has to physically move for gears to like get going, so that his brain just starts hatching ideas for new things to bring. Because IDM loves a lot of kind of quirky sets, I'll say, and just doing some interesting stuff with his Pokemon. He likes having fun that way.
That is true. IDM absolutely has the wiggle room to. He is an Imagineer. Like, not even to a fault. Like, he is just a very creative guy. He will be like, you can see later on this week, he didn't really get a chance to pull it off, but at some point he does bring Blunder Policy Dynamic Punch Buzzwole, because that's just the kind of guy that he is.
Wow, that's incredible. Speaking of incredible, we have Lovensky of the Chicago Snubbles versus Black Captain of the Martian Mantines. Our first out.
So Black Captain had drafted a newcomer
Yeah.
And you can go ahead and introduce him if you'd like.
Introduce who? Like Black Captain? What he's got?
Black Captain?
Yeah. So Black Captain's got a fun team. We went over this for our week 1 recap. Black Captain's got 3 like micro weather cores. And it's really fun and really neat. I like his team. Like, it was something where at first, when it all came out, I'm like, oh, why get 3 weather cores? But the more I looked at it, it's just a fun little team he has. With Bear Scoots to abuse Politoed in its rain, something or other. Torkoal, I don't remember what it benefits or something he has for that. I don't know if he brought that this time around, but he also didn't bring... He has Tyranitar, which he didn't bring this time around, but Lovin, I think, has a few good answers to Tyranitar, actually. Having Como doing fighting, Bisharp getting some great fighting moves, and Gyarados is terrifying as well, actually. Hits really hard.
Gyarados is never not something that you can't respect.
Yeah.
With that said, Lovin's side is super scary, so... So I'll go ahead and I'll go through Lovin's team. Jirachi is very much a sort of Swiss Army knife. I've seen this thing run anywhere from, you know, bulky store power sets with weakness policy to Scarf Iron Head to Flinch the Non-Believers to Calm Mind setups that just absolutely decimate with some combination of Thunderbolt. And actually I've seen Doom Desire, which I really hope Lovensky brings at some point in this next season, because having a Steel type feature site can net you all sorts of fun stuff versus other rock types that just completely open the way for something like Como like Como or even Pikachu, which is I am over the moon about Pikachu. I'm not gonna lie to you. I love that little rat. I think Light Ball Pikachu and its base 414 attack stat is incredible.
Yeah, it definitely is. By the way, Jirachi is just really nice too, because like you said with Swiss Army Knife, it's base 100 like across the board, except for like what, HP?
No, it's 100 across the board.
Is it 100 across the board? Okay, I thought HP might have been off. But I'm thinking of Silvally, aren't I? Because that one's basically...
Yeah, because Silvally's flat 95 across the board, which we'll get to that thing.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get to that thing.
Angry.
Bisharp, of course, you know, it's just a good Pokemon as well. Sucker Punch from that thing just hurts. It gets good fighting coverage. It's got some other decent moves as well that it does. Entei...
I once heard Bisharp described as the most honest Pokemon. Because, like, yeah, it's just going to set up Swords Dance and Sucker Punch, but it's so good at just doing that, you just can't let it get away with it. Band has been a sort of popular sort of ladder set recently, but I can't say that I've ever really seen the appeal of Band Division. I think Sucker Punch is just too good a utility.
Yeah.
Entei doesn't really get... Yeah. I don't think Entei really gets a lot of mileage out of this team, because...
It doesn't.
It's not going to take a double... It's not going to take a double Iron Bash very well. Or an Earthquake.
No.
You know, Retaliate from Stoutland could get a lot of damage on it. Obviously, Barraskewda is going to answer that thing handily in rain. Obviously, I don't have Black Captain's draft in front of me, but the Entei pick, I don't think makes a whole lot of sense to me personally. But you're going to see in a minute, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Okay, so Entei, decent answer for Bronzong,
Executor,
and that's it, really. Because
I mean, Melmetal, it
hard.
Outspeeds Melmetal. I don't know how much damage you could get off on Melmetal, but it does outspeed Melmetal.
True, but I think at that point, leaving it in, you're risking that Earthquake, and then you're missing... Because I think the only sort of caveat that Entei would have versus Melmetal is fishing for a Sacred Fire Burn, which at that point, you're praying for luck. Which is not a bad idea, and it Banded Entei can definitely do some work versus this draft in particular, but... It's kind of all for naught, and you're gonna see why in just a minute.
Yeah, and we have Como as well, and Pikachu, of course. Como being a fighting type, and Dragon, and it's an interesting pick. It definitely I think hurts Melmetal. I think it can't really take too much of a hit, but like, you know.
Ooh, actually, I love Como. Yeah. So they actually, back in Gen 8. Mm-hmm. Or I'm sorry, in Gen 7, it had a Z move specific to itself called Clangorous Soul Blaze, which was a physical attack that gave you an Omni Boost.
Oh.
Now, being that Z moves have been phased out, Como has a new signature move called Clangorous Soul, where it sacrifices a third of its HP for an Omni Boost. And not only that, you can run the Omni Boost, you can run the Boom Burst Drug Spray set, which is a ton of fun. You can run Sub Belly Drum with Salic Berry with Drain Punch to get all that HP back. Like, there's a lot you can do with Como.
Yeah, it's got a lot of versatility for sure. I'm just trying to think of... I mean, I guess it would just hit really hard against this team in general.
Yeah, the Como pick, I agree with 100%.
Okay. Metal, of course, from Black Captain, I think is a good pick overall against what Lovin has. It's a good Pokemon. Just hits hard.
Melmetal's so oppressive. Like if that's Bronzong Trick Room, and that Melmetal is banded, there is no resist to it in the game.
Yeah.
Just flat out not gonna happen, because anything you don't kill, you're gonna flinch.
Yeah.
So I think with all of that said, I think that we can just go ahead and jump into the replay.
Sure, let's go ahead and do that. Starting off with the Bronzong, which is not a bad idea to come and bring this thing and just scout. And here begins a fun time.
Here begins the sort of snowball. This Cosmic Power Rachi, if he does not have Roar on Stoutland, he is looking at absolutely getting completely washed. And obviously this is a weakness policy set, which is what I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, good crit
Lucky
there.
crit there. Like, the fun part about this match is, well, you'll see. Just count the crits from Bronzong for me, and we'll see.
Yeah.
So I think at this point it's sort of just a Hail Mary. Like, he has to find a way to kill this Jirachi, otherwise he just loses the whole battle.
Even in the sun, Flamethrower only doing 24% is insane. And there it is. Stored Power just comes in, and nothing else hits this thing, really. This point.
No dark types on the team. Stored Power just completely obliterates Melmetal. Here comes the Politoed. Maybe he could get off some Perish Song shenanigans, but that does not happen either. Barraskewda comes in. A valiant effort for the drill run, but you completely missed.
Yeah.
A little bit of justice coming up here for the for that miss. So just give me 1 sec.
Yeah.
Obviously, Stoutland gang, you know, I love Sandra Stoutland, but that's not important right now. But here comes the hero of the day.
Yep, another Earthquake hit there.
The Bronzong. Coming in with not one, but 2 critical Earthquakes to kill the Jirachi.
Put in a lot of work in this thing. So I wonder if early on, because, you know, we started with the Trick Room, and just switching straight into Melmetal would have made a difference. And just trying to hit.
I do agree. I think at that point Jirachi is a +2 if it didn't decide to sort of try and attack the Bronzong right away.
Mm-hmm.
But any chip damage would have, I don't want to say would have been enough, but it definitely would have sort of started to tip the scales over, because
yeah, and that unfortunate
you saw how much that Flamethrower did from Torkoal. It was just.
Yeah.
Drill Run was a good option for Barraskewda. That high crit chance was going to be the only real thing, you know, preventing it from completely just setting up. But obviously that 90% comes back to bite it. But it does get the Earthquake Justice crit, so.
Yeah, it definitely does, which is unfortunate. But, you know, a fun match. Jirachi put in a lot of work. I remember Cody talking about that and, like, telling Levin, like, dude, just Cosmic Powers and Stored Power his team.
I love it when you coach someone and then your advice wins them the match.
Yeah.
It feels like, oh, my child is going out into the world.
My baby.
I'm so proud of them. My baby Jirachi, baby Lovensky.
Speaking of matches and babies and skies and things like that, we got our next match. That was an awful segue, but that's okay.
So we're here for this Sky Baby match right now, but...
By the way, can I just say, we have Claire seems full of male Pokemon, and then Aurora seems full of female Pokemon. Attract would have gone an interesting route in this sort of thing.
I cannot wait till the day that someone brings Attract to Draft League.
I'm half tempted to sometimes, just because, like, for some reason, it does end up like this more often than not, I feel like. I don't know, I just see this, I'm like, that it just happens a lot. Weird. Either way, Claire bringing some scary Pokemon with that. Porygon 2, of course, taking just about any hit it can. Pheromosa coming in, hitting anything it can. Obstagoon, I don't know too much about it. I know that it's a dark type and it hits hard, gets some decent moves, but it gets guts.
The beauty of Obstagoon on Claire's draft is, firstly, its pivot, parting shot.
Okay.
Is wonderful, with especially with the Obstagoon speed tier. It's sitting just below 310.
Really?
So, yeah. So everything that's not Kartana and Nihilego, it's pivoted on. So I like it. Obviously, it gets Guts. So Guts Flame Orb with Stab Facade is never going to be a bad choice for any draft, no matter when you bring it.
We also have Moltres, of course, as well, which it's really funny to me how a lot of Gen 1 Pokemon are still in the meta for like this late on.
Moltres' entire lifeblood is heavy-duty boots.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm so glad that boots exist, because I feel like that opens the door for so many more Pokemon to be viable in the meta. Like, you would not have seen Moltres as I think Moltres was a tier 3 in our draft league, and that thing would have easily been tier 4 had the idea of boots not existed.
Yeah. Got the same thing for the other fire birds or fire flyings like Charizard, who does not like rocks. That'll kill Charizard.
No. Back in the horror days where you'd have to run 3 rapid spinners just so that you could play around with the fire flying Pokemon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do not miss that.
Rhyperior, just a great Pokemon as well. Hits hard, takes hits, and indeed...
Solid Rock is an absolutely insane ability for it, and although its typing doesn't lend itself amazingly to defense, Rhyperior actually is deceptively threatening.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the Rock Polish set before, but it gets Sword Stance on its own, and it has like I think it's like 125 attack, so Dual Dance Rhyperior is no joke.
Yeah. And indeed, of course, coming in, which stops priorities with its Psychic Terrain, which is really nice to have, but...
pairs extremely well with Pheromosa.
Yep, and Expanded Force.
It was basically just made of paper and glass.
Yeah, and Expanded Force just hits hard.
So, Aurora's side, Lantern, quintessential lower tier special defensive mon. You get Thunder Wave, you get Scald, so you can fish for burns, you get Volt Switch, so you can pivot out, you get Heal Bell. Obviously not the tankiest sort of water type for that sort of bulky water archetype, but still a really good pick nonetheless. It very handily answers Moltres, which if you're looking at Aurora's draft, you can see that Moltres handles both Kartana and Arcanine, and potentially Pinsir if it's not running Scarf. So I think Lantern was an amazing pick here. In practice, Nihilego with Meteor Beam set just completely trounces the player's draft. Because if you're running the speed boost, you have the +1, and then you can just power gem the Pheromosa, you can power gem the Obstagoon if you have some damage on it, you can power gem the Indeedee, power gem the P2, the Moltres, and lastly Grass Knot does just under a bajillion % to Rhyperior.
Just under.
So, just under, you know. Yeah. It really skirts that line between 100,000 and 99,990.
Yeah, somewhere in that range. And then Kartana, of course, just super fast, hits like a truck, and it just
really needs no introduction
to a lot of Pokemon. Like, Kartana is terrifying if you don't have an answer for it.
Arcanine, sort of in the same vein as Rhyperior, where it's really deceptively threatening because Extreme Speed obviously threatens Pheromosa at any time, but its Intimidate set, just like Moltres, it got much better with the boots.
Yep.
You come in on Intimidate, you can eat like a Mystical Fire or Flamethrower from Moltres if you absolutely have to, and it actually gets Teleport too, so Arcanine serving very much the sort of same role as Lantern does, just handles a completely different set of Pokemon. And then Blastoise, this thing got Shell Smash, and hoo-wee, oh my god. If you look at this on paper, Shell Smash Blastoise just goes absolutely bananas.
Yeah, it is probably moved up now to, I think, the best of, honestly, the starter mons, like, in general. Like, it just does really good because of that Shell Smash now.
Shell Smash definitely put Blastoise back on the map, because obviously Venusaur has been an amazing chlorophyll sweeper for years and years and years now.
Yeah.
And obviously Charizard in his 2 Mega Evolutions,
now.
as well as its sort of hidden physical versatility with stuff like Flame Charge, Acrobatics, as well as Solar Power sets where Overheat just kills every single Pokemon in the meta.
And
I think Blastoise getting Shell Smash. That's true. That is my bad.
Yeah.
So we did definitely have a lot to say jumping into this match, because it is easily the most the most high octane of the matches for this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I have to.
A whole lot of variance, and it's easily the strongest sort of caliber of players that played this week as well.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of just,
I think we can get started on the match.
Yep, let's go ahead and jump into it. Sorry if I rambled during
No,
the team.
no worries.
I love it.
Do. People want to know the info. Arcanine starting off with Intimidate's honestly just a good start. Intimidate's just really nice to have. Good job with Porygon coming in, countering that Intimidate.
Low turn here in Spirit. You can see the Thunder Wave as a really good answer with Lantern comes in, completely eats it, takes absolutely zero kind of damage from Psyshock. Psyshock obviously being something that's needed to answer Nihilego if it starts getting out of hand.
Yeah.
But there's that Volt Switch, the pivot comes in really handily, and then here comes Cart, here to kill something.
Yep.
Moltres, obviously, in drills, Claire and I did it. We built this Moltres to be full physically defensive, so that it could handle Kartana if it needed to, as well as Pinsir. So that's why that Claire's actually running this Bruce set and Toxic to try and stall out this. And Toxic on the Lantern is huge.
Yeah, Mystical Fire also putting a lot of work, which of course 100% drop special attack, which is really nice on Pokemon like Lantern. So even though we've, of course the water gets stabbed and super effective against Moltres, here it does only 29%, which is really nice.
One more Mystical Fire makes it so that the sub isn't broken, and a good sort of awareness from Aurora to go for the Toxic, because obviously Claire's probably going to want Moltres as healthy as possible for Kartana, so getting off that Toxic is huge. Unfortunately, now there is absolutely no answer for Shell Smash Blastoise, which is exactly what Aurora
there goes. Well, there's one answer.
So this thing, and that is Thunder Wave Porygon 2. The only caveat to Thunder Wave is that you have to hit it.
Yeah.
Which it does not.
She does not hit it, which is very unfortunate. Aura Sphere comes in, just kills that thing, and definitely a big play in the run there too.
Yeah, extremely crucial, especially because you can see that Obstagoon was sashed. So had that Thunder Wave hit, it actually would have gotten off 2 different hits, both after the close combat, and it could have parting shot it after the fact. Fortunately, the Pheromosa comes in and it's speed boost, so obviously you can sort of glean that it is probably a speedier set, usually a Scarf set, but there's no reason ever to not go into Moltres here, which Aurora takes advantage of, because there's no reason to give it the advantage state after that Thunder Wave play.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was good on Claire, by the way. That Pheromosa coming in killing Blastoise was absolutely necessary, otherwise Aurora would have got a 6-0, I'm pretty sure, and swept at that point, because Blastoise just hits everything.
But luckily, that's the Pheromosa, as you can see in chat, is actually a Scarf, because it deals with the speed boost in Nihilego, as well as something a little more absurd like Scarf Kartana, which would normally just completely tear a hole through Claire's draft.
Yep, Rapiri coming out to an Earthquake, killing off Low Turn, which is really nice, and then Kartana, though, is still a hard thing to find the right answer for. But
yeah, there's never a good reason to not go into Moltres there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Nihilego now has completely free reign to do basically whatever it wants to. And although Mystical Fire does sort of help out with, I believe it's Rhyperior's longevity here, it's yep, there's a Meteor Beam set. That's exactly what we prepared for.
Yeah.
Fortunately, with -1 Grass Knot, we packed the Rindaberry so that it does live, and Earthquake does kill the Nihilego, so that is a huge threat off the map. So it is still entirely possible.
Yeah.
No good answer there, because he's switching to Moltres and it dies, and the knockoff plus Toxic damage, so...
Yep.
Basically, there's no good position from there. You just have to hope that Pheromosa comes in, which obviously is going to eat and Intimidate, and obviously we saw earlier that it was Speed Boost, so even if it does kill the Arcanine, it's not going to get its attack back, so...
Yeah, so
Kartana is always sort of in that back row.
Yep.
Expanding Force here is no joke. Honestly, Aurora is more than welcome to sort of play safety here.
Yeah.
Completely sacks Pinsir, because I think Kartana at this point is poised to win.
Yeah.
So here's the hard part. So obviously you had to sack the NDD here, because there's no chance that you switch into Pheromosa on the Kartana.
Yeah.
But this Intimidate, close combat does kill the Arcanine, and it does get the speed boost. And then Tragedy strikes.
Yep. We have yeah, that Intimidate made the difference.
Kill.
That was a night and day difference there. Without that Intimidate, Claire would have easily or handily won this match. But Aurora played it smart, sending out Arcanine there after sacking Pinsir to intentionally get off that Intimidate on Pheromosa to get that drop, because I don't believe that was a roll, that 8%.
No, it was Timid Scarf to get in front of frankly the absurd sweeping power of Nihilego, because in drills Meteor Beam, Grass Knot, Power Gem just 6 out every single time if Claire let it get up. So it was absolutely necessary to answer that Pokemon.
Yeah, definitely. But you know what? Good match by both players. Really entertaining and a really close match. Claire keeping it really close, which really helps her differential at this point. And we could take a look at those rankings right over here. We do have IDM, of course, skirting up towards the top with that +8 after getting a sweep there. That really helped his differential with the 2-0. Aurora having 2 wins now, going to +6. Claire not letting Aurora have any more numbers than that, because she don't want that to happen. Don't want Aurora being sitting too well at the top. Your brother, from another mother or from the same mother, who knows? It's a mystery.
Actually, from the same mother. Can you believe it?
I know, right?
Twins. Who saw that coming?
Twins.
Right?
By the way, happy late birthday. I forgot to tell you happy birthday.
Thank you. I just turned 12.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. I can't believe it. You're 12 and Cody's 24. What happened?
We're a modern marvel, let me tell you.
Oh, goodness. A really
belated twins, 12 years apart. Who saw that coming?
Yeah, I know, right? Let's see. We also have, speaking of Cody, he's at 2-0 with +4 in differential. Not bad. Cody's still trying to make his way up to the top and everything. You know, one wrong match, though, and someone like Levin, who's at 1-1, can easily surpass Cody here with a +3 differential. Beyond that, we got Claire at 1-1 at +2, just underneath Lovensky, and 4th place and 3rd place honestly are still in for contention at this point in the season. We have Remedy at the bottom of the top at the moment with 0-2 at -5. Still can come back from that sort of match. That's not an impossible place to come back from. A couple bad matches on Cody's part or even Levin's part. Your 6th place can go to 4th place. And that's the same for Martian Mantines. 0-2, -7. A bit of a rough spot to come back from, but it's still doable if things go right for you.
5-2 and even 4-3 is still a very, very plausible ratio to get into playoffs. That's not even in contention. Mm-hmm. The beauty of week 2 is obviously when draft just starts, you sort of have an idea of you already have an idea of what your team is you sort of know the makeup of it.
Yeah.
But at least with me personally, I sort of need to play with the team to sort of get used to stuff like the head counts and understand the versatility of my movesets that I have. How many other options do I have with each Pokemon that I drafted? So week 2 is still very much about feeling out how your draft feels to you. Because I think we've had free agent trades up. Honestly, I think we had free agent trades all the way up through week 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe. I don't remember right now. We'll have someone in the comments down below check that after they click the subscribe button. Also, I forgot to mention Woody rounding at the bottom at 0-2, -11. -11's hard to come back from.
It really is. Again, it's not impossible, but you can see Woody has the tools in his draft to make things happen. It is going to take a lot of awareness
and a lot of blood
to sort of get back over that hump.
A lot of tears.
But I don't think anyone should be stressed out at the end of week 2. Even if you're 0-2, like you're still just barely getting into the season. So you should never count yourself out because you had a bad match or like you got fixed out, or you might be thinking, I don't know if I love my draft. Just just feel it out. No one's perfect. As you can see, there's only 3 people in the division that haven't lost a game, and it's also only week 2, and it's also the 3 best play, 3 of the 4 best players in that division. So
yeah, and it's definitely something that you're all going to have to check out in the next week, in week 3, to see how these numbers shift around. Because if I remember correctly, week 3 is a fun.
Week 3 is a slobber knocker. Oh my goodness! I think that's the one with Aurora IDM, if I'm not mistaken.
It is not the one with Aurora IDM, actually. That is IDM and Black Captain in week 3, and Aurora and Levin, which is a really fun match, as well as Claire and Cody. Good match.
Claire and Cody is a very good match.
Yeah, and Woody Remedy. We'll get there. So, thank you all so much, though. I think that is actually it for that we have so far for this. For week 2. We'll be back at week 3, hopefully coming out soon here. We've had some fun with hosts and whatnot and background things going on, but we'll get this ball rolling. We'll get things going.
Thank you so much for having me, Cabral. This is my first analysis this is the third season I played, but it's also only my very first analysis of anything that I've ever done. So I really do appreciate you.
Of course, thanks for
giving me the time to talk at length before the battle even starts about basically everything that pops into my weird little head.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's really nice having insight like that into a lot of the makeups and Pokemon and the team dynamics and everything like that, and it makes a difference. And it's something that helps people along with their matches when planning for these certain. There's little tidbits that they can pick up from these previous matches that they can use for their upcoming matches. Hopefully, we'll get caught up all here soon. But thank you all so much for joining us and for watching. You will all have a wonderful day or evening, maybe even afternoon. Who's to say?
Come on, no one watches us at night. Yeah. You have to start your day with Double Dip, otherwise, how do you even make it through?
What if your day starts at night though? Like, what if you just you sleep in till 11
and you're not allowed to watch?
Oh,
morning or bust.
All right, so at the crack of 12:01 a.m., you gotta watch this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to start your day with some Dippy and a coffee.
There you go. And on that note, take care, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.